right. So dive in with me here on this one. You sent over some articles, a whole set from the Thai government website.
Okay.
And they're all about Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra's meetings
Right.
with all these big tech companies at the APEC summit down in Peru.
Yeah.
Now, on the surface, it might just seem like the usual, diplomacy. Thailand's open for business, that kind of thing. But
yeah. But I think there's a much deeper story here.
yeah.
The thing that really jumps out at me is the ambition behind these meetings.
Okay.
It's not just about attracting investment. It's like Thailand's trying to be a digital powerhouse in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I get that courtship vibe too. It's not just like
Right.
smiling for the cameras and a handshake.
Exactly.
It's really in-depth stuff with Google, TikTok, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Even this whole coalition of American businesses. It feels very strategic.
Very strategic. Yeah, like a chess game in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things that really points to that strategy is the focus on really specific areas of collaboration. It's not just vague promises. They're talking about real partnerships.
Yeah, and I think one of the most telling signs of that is the meeting with the U.S. APEC Business Coalition,
Right.
where Prime Minister Paetongtarn emphasized, the nation's opportunity, readiness, and confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a clear signal that Thailand believes it has what it takes to be like a real player in the global digital economy.
Okay, so let's break down these meetings one by one.
Okay.
Starting with Google, because that one really caught my eye. $1 billion to build a data center and cloud region.
Wow.
That's not small potatoes. What kind of impact does that have on a country?
I mean, it's huge, right? This isn't just about faster internet.
Right.
It's about infrastructure. I mean, think about data centers as like the foundation of the whole digital economy.
Okay.
They're storing and processing all this information.
Right.
And they're essential for everything from e-commerce to AI.
Yep.
Google building this data center is basically saying, we see Thailand as a key hub
Right.
for the region's entire digital future.
So Google's planting a flag. Why Thailand?
Well, Google's Karan Bhatia mentioned that, a lot of their free products, search, maps, YouTube,
Sure.
they're already used a lot in Thailand. So there's a big user base there, and they're clearly seeing the potential for growth.
Okay, but with all this data flowing through Thailand, doesn't that make them a target for cyber attacks?
Oh, absolutely. Cybersecurity is a huge concern.
Yeah.
But the articles really highlight how much Thailand wants to work with Google on this. It's
Yeah.
where that digital courtship comes in again.
Yeah.
Thailand saying, hey, we know the risks and we want to work with you to fix it.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to TikTok. 50 million users in Thailand.
Wow.
That's like almost everyone.
That's huge.
What are they doing beyond just, dance trends?
Well, they're tapping into a massive market.
Yeah.
And their strategy is interesting because they're not just focused on entertainment. They're really working hard to help businesses, especially like the small and medium enterprises,
Right.
which are really the backbone of any economy,
Yeah.
to use the platform for e-commerce, content creation, that kind of stuff.
So it's more than just an app. It's like a partner.
Right, exactly.
Like, come grow with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's this whole human element too, like Prime Minister Paetongtarn and the TikTok CEO talked about how important it is to use social media responsibly,
Right.
especially for young people.
Yeah.
So it's not just about profit, they're thinking about the impact on society.
I like that they're acknowledging that responsibility.
Yeah.
Now, Microsoft is an interesting one. They've already got some history with Thailand, right?
Yeah, you're right. This wasn't their first meeting.
Yeah.
Back in May, former Prime Minister Sretha met with Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella.
Right.
So they've already laid the groundwork, and it seems like they both think Thailand could be like a digital hub.
Like Google does. So what's Microsoft offering specifically? What are they focused on?
I think a key takeaway from this meeting at APEC is that they're focusing on workforce development.
Okay.
They're going to work with Thai schools and universities to provide training in digital skills.
Yeah.
It's about equipping people for the jobs of the future.
Right. You can't just build all this fancy tech stuff and not have people who know how to use it.
Exactly.
Okay. Before we move on, let's talk about this U.S. APEC Business Coalition.
Okay.
This one's really got my attention because it's not just one company. It's a whole group of them. What's the story there?
Well, it's a powerful group.
Yeah.
They represent a wide range of American businesses.
Okay.
And their interest in Thailand is already turning into action.
Yeah.
U.S. investment in Thailand went up by a crazy 70% in 2023.
Wow.
To $2.5 billion.
That's serious.
Yeah. It shows that they're not just testing the waters, they're diving right in.
Yeah.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting for everybody, not just the big companies. This kind of investment can create a ripple effect.
Right.
And it leads to more opportunities, more innovation, and more jobs
Yeah.
across all kinds of industries.
Okay, so we've got Google setting up shop, we've got TikTok working with businesses, we've got Microsoft training workers, and we've got American businesses pouring in money.
It's a lot.
Sounds like Thailand's making some big moves to be a digital hub, but can they really pull it off? What are the challenges they face? I'm really curious to hear your take on all of this. But first, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back to keep going with this deep dive into Thailand's digital future.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back and ready to keep digging into Thailand's digital future.
Yeah.
We've seen the ambition now. I want to get into the how can they actually become like the next big digital hub of Southeast Asia? What do they need to overcome?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, it's not just about money or these new data centers. It's got to be a whole environment where innovation can happen.
Okay, so break that down for me. What does a digital ecosystem actually look like?
Think of it like a network, right? Where everything is connected. So you got the physical stuff, the data centers, the fast internet, but then you also need the policies and regulations and like a culture that supports people taking risks and starting businesses.
Right.
And most importantly, you need people who can actually use and build this technology.
So it's not just about bringing in the big companies like Google and Microsoft.
Right.
It's about making sure that Thai companies can grow too.
Exactly. You got to help local talent and make sure Thai people benefit from all this.
Right.
Which I think is really interesting from a social impact point of view.
Yeah.
We always talk about the digital divide, but it seems like Thailand is really trying to fix that. It's not just about the economy. They're thinking about making society more fair and inclusive too.
I'm curious, how do these things that Thailand is doing compare to other countries in Southeast Asia? Are they ahead of the game or are they catching up?
I think Thailand is definitely trying to be a leader in the region.
Right.
And what they're doing could be a model for other countries who want to use technology to grow. But, you know, every country is different. They all have their own problems and opportunities.
Right.
There's no magic solution that works everywhere.
Okay, let's talk about the potential downsides for a second. We've talked about all the good stuff, but what are some of the challenges Thailand might face trying to do all of this?
Well, one of the biggest things is making sure that everyone benefits,
Okay.
not just a few people. If they're not careful, the digital divide could actually get worse.
Right.
Like, imagine if only people in big cities have good internet and digital skills.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be left behind.
So it's not enough to just invest in the technology.
No.
They have to make sure everyone can use it.
Exactly. And that means having policies that help people who might get left behind,
Okay.
especially people in rural areas or people who don't know much about technology.
That makes sense.
Right.
Now, what about regulations? Can Thailand attract foreign companies and also protect its people and their data?
That's a tough one. They need to make it easy for companies to invest, but also protect Thai people.
Right.
Things like data privacy, cybersecurity, and what kind of content is allowed online all need to be thought about carefully.
Okay.
And the rules need to be adaptable. They can't just copy what other countries are doing. They have to find their own way.
It sounds like they need to think long-term and be strategic, not just go for the quick and easy wins.
Yeah, exactly. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And they need to be ready to change as the digital world changes.
Okay.
And, you know, we can't forget about the geopolitics of it all. There's a lot of tension between the U.S. and China, especially when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
How does Thailand deal with that?
Yeah, they've got Google and Microsoft on one side and TikTok, a Chinese company, on the other.
Exactly.
That's got to be tricky.
It definitely makes things more complicated. They have to be careful not to depend too much on any one country or company.
Right.
Keeping their digital sovereignty, you know, being able to make their own decisions about their digital future. That's really important.
So they're walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
They need to keep the economy going,
Yeah,
but also think about national security and make sure they're not being used by anyone.
exactly.
So with all of that, do you think Thailand can actually make this happen?
You know, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think they have a lot of good things going for them. They have a lot of young people who are good with technology, a good location, and a government that seems to really want to do this. But they also have some big challenges like we talked about.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to getting a few key things right.
I think what?
Making sure everyone benefits, having the right rules, and navigating that tricky geopolitical situation.
Right.
If they can do all that, it could be a huge success, not just for Thailand, but for the whole region.
Okay, so we've talked about the vision, the potential, and the challenges. But what does this all mean for our listeners? Why should they care about what's happening with technology in Thailand?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the big picture,
Okay.
the money, the infrastructure, all the politics. But really, this is all about people, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes this so interesting, right? It's
Yeah.
not just about the technology. It's about how it can help people. Thailand is trying to use this to help its people create opportunities and build a better future.
Yeah.
And that's pretty inspiring.
It makes you think, could other countries do this too? Could we see this kind of digital change happening all over the world?
That's a really good question.
No.
Could this be a model for other developing countries? Maybe, but it's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right.
What works in Thailand might not work somewhere else.
Yeah, and even in Thailand, there's still a lot to do.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about making sure everyone has access and creating good rules and dealing with all that global stuff. It's not easy.
No, it's not. But at least they're facing these challenges head on.
They're not ignoring the hard parts. They're trying to find solutions.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we know this is tough, but we're going to make it work.
Right, exactly. And I think that attitude is really important.
Yeah.
This isn't a quick fix. It's a long-term thing.
Right.
Building a digital economy takes time. And you have to be ready to change and learn along the way.
So let's bring it back to our listener. Why should they care about all this? What's the takeaway?
Well, I think on one level, it's a really cool case study. Thailand is at the forefront of this global shift towards a digital future.
Yeah.
What they learn from this, the good and the bad, is going to matter to everyone.
It's like a window into the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on a more practical level, this could mean new opportunities.
Okay.
If you're an entrepreneur, an investor, or just someone interested in new things, Thailand's tech scene is growing really fast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy there.
So maybe this isn't just about understanding Thailand. It's about understanding how the world is changing and maybe even finding some opportunities for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one last thought. We've talked about Thailand's plans, the good things that could happen and the challenges they face. But the question we want you to think about is, what role could you play in this?
Right.
Whether you're a tech expert or just starting out or just curious about what's next, there's a place for you in this story. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.